Hey yo, welcome back to Sidewynders Shed. Again, today we're right outside the shed, and since my last few videos have been about cast iron, I wanted to do one more for a couple of reasons. First off being, in one of my videos for that new Lodge pan that I'll be having a drawing which you can enter to win and be giving it away, I gave a date. Saturday, April 2nd will be the drawing. That's my fault. I actually intended it to be yesterday for the drawing, but I gave the wrong date, which is okay. So I gives everyone an extra week to subscribe, like, share, and comment on any of these videos with these cast iron pans that I mentioned the giveaway. Put down somewhere in the comment section that you want that pan. So it'll be next Saturday. Today is Sunday. It'll be next Saturday, April 2nd. I will have the drawing. So I just wanted to put a little filler in here. Let everyone know that yes, there's still a drawing. Yes, you still have a chance. It's going to be Saturday, April 2nd. I will have the drawing. But right now, there's a few comments that were left, and talking to people, a few things were said, why the cast iron? Why do you like the cast iron so much? And if you like it so much, how come you're showing everybody, the downfalls of cast iron? Well, it's very simple. Unlike some people, I'm not here to sell a product. I'm here to show you how I use it, what I do to it, and how it works for me. So I don't want to give the impression that cast iron will be as non-stick as Teflon. No matter how good the seasoning is on them. They may come close over time, but they'll never be as non-stick as Teflon. But here's the thing. I would like somebody out there to take a picture, make a comment, ask anyone. You don't even have to do it for me. Ask anyone yourself to show you a 50, 60-year-old Teflon pan that they use every day that's still in good shape and still around. Trust me, I grew up with cast iron. My folks used it all the time. That's what I'm used to. So I know the ins and outs, and it does take a little bit more maintenance and work than your everyday Teflon or coated pan, okay? But they're still around. These two here on the end, these belong to my folks. They're Wagner ware, and from the 60s. This one here, yeah, this one I got from my folks, from my dad. I don't know how long he's had it, but this is 1940s vintage Lodge. And again, this is my fish pan. This is one I cook all my fish in. This is one of our old camping pans. I have 3 more that are in my camper that stay in the camper that I got from them. They're smaller than this one. This was our big camping pan. I got a couple more in the shed. I should get them, but I'll save that for another time because I got a feeling this video is probably going to run a little bit long anyway. But the thing with this cast iron is, growing up, I remember my folks cooking in these all the time. And yes, my mom went out and she bought the Teflon coated pans. She went through a bunch of frying pans, and they worked great for about 5 years or so, and then they'd throw them away until she got another set. This is what we kept using, and I'm still using them to this day. And a lot of the things with this cast iron, and I'm sure if any of my brothers, sisters, or older nephews and nieces are watching, I'm sure they remember my folks cooking food in these exact pans. And that's one of the great things about cast iron, is the emotional attachment, the memories it brings back. I remember many a breakfast, pork chops, fried chicken, all sorts of food being cooked in these very same pans. And that's something I get to do because I have them. My brothers and sisters don't have these two. And trust me, my folks had a bunch of cast iron. I'm sure they gave a few away to anyone that wanted them. My nephews, nieces, brothers and sisters. These are the two they used every day. They were always on the stovetop. There's no need in putting them away because they were used. My folks, anytime you came over the house, whether you were hungry or not, you were offered food, and you're usually offered it after they started cooking it too, so you couldn't say no. That was one of the things. But yeah, every time I use these pans, and I can't help it, it's subconscious. Every time I use these pans, there's always, even just for a half a second, flashback of my mom standing over the stove cooking something, or my dad making breakfast usually. Same with this one, the camping pan. I remember all the fun times we had camping, putting this right on the fire, right in the coals. And these are things that were handed down to me, and eventually, yeah, I can hand them down to my kids and my grandkids. Matter of fact, a couple of my kids, my girls, I've already given them a few of the cast iron pans that I got. But there's history in these. This one is new. Now, this is not the one I'm giving away. This one I'm giving away is just like it, but there's a video of this one also showing me preparing this and seasoning it, and that's about a year old. I'll put a link to that video. It's a 16-minute video, and it'll show these other pans as well. But I'll put a link to that video in the description, not in the comment section, in the description section. But this pan right here starts with me. This is my pan. This is the one I worked on. I smoothed it out, I seasoned it. It starts with me. So this is something that I can give away to my kids, my grandkids, whatever, and hopefully they'll have the same memories. Pop out here, cooking with the cast iron, making breakfast, making meals, cooking dinner for them. And no matter what I use, they all work great, but this one here is the one I started with. These ones here have memories for me, and they still work. 60 years old, they still work. 1940s, abused. And it stands up. Again, ask anyone, try and find a Teflon coated pan that's still around after being used as a camp pan. You're not going to find it. But yes, they do take a little extra work. They do take a little bit more patience. I've seen some videos where it tells you it takes decades to get a good seasoning or a nonstick. No, it doesn't. Not if you use them 2-3 times a week, every day. Again, this one here is about a year, a little bit less than a year old. And although it's not as dark as the other ones, it still works and it's usable. In order to get a good seasoning on them so you can cook with them and that they clean up easy, it honestly takes about, the way I do it, it takes about 6 hours to get a seasoning on them, your first seasoning. That pan I'm giving away, that took me, total work, took me 8 hours because I took 2 hours to sand it down smooth. Other than that, the seasoning process, the way I do it, takes about 6 hours. So you can do it in one day. You can spread it out over a weekend, or you can spread it out over the week. You can season them. It takes about an hour a day to get them seasoned, depending on how quick your stove heats up to the right temperature. So I just rounded it off to about 2 hours to get your stove heated up. Leave the pan in the stove for an hour, and then let it cool down. I figure that takes about 2 hours. You do that in over 3 days. That's 2 hours a day after work. No big deal. Doesn't take weeks, decades, or anything. And you can start cooking in it. And the more you use it, they're right though, the more you use it, the better it is. You got a pan that's been used for 60 years, yeah, it's going to work a whole lot better than the pan I've only been using for a year. But this one will get there. It'll get there. Again, this is old school stuff, but it hangs around a lot. It's if you're careful with them, and you don't have to be dainty, you just have to accept the fact that it takes a little bit longer to heat them up. It takes a few minutes to oil them. And you've already seen on a few of my videos, they do clean up relatively easy. They really do. Hot water, and they do most of the work themselves. You just got to wipe them out and re-oil them. So it's not that big of a deal. They're heavy. They're very heavy. As a matter of fact, this Wagner is about 1.5 pounds lighter than this Lodge. This old Lodge is probably about 1 pound lighter than this new Lodge. So it's not always necessarily the heavier the better. A lot of the older cast irons were thinner and lighter than the newer stuff. I'm not exactly sure. Somebody smarter than me can probably tell you why. Irregardless, they're all fairly heavy. But again, they need a little work. A little bit more regular maintenance. But they are wonderful to cook in. And again, I'm sitting here with 3 pans, 60 and 80 years old. I'm sitting here with one that's only a few years old. And I can guarantee you this 60-year-old pan, this 80-year-old pan will still be here in another 80 years. Same with this one. They're going to be here through generations. Whether somebody wants to use them or not, that's a different thing. And like I said, it's like a little legacy you can pass on down to somebody. Even the ones you find. That's the thing I have found and been given a whole bunch of old cast iron pans. And as I'm cleaning them up and using them again, I think back to who had this pan? What did they cook in it? What was the time frame? Was it during the Great Depression? Was it during World War I? Was it during World War II? How many breakfasts did they cook in it? How many dinners? Was it a wedding gift and the new bride getting picked on for cooking every dinner and her poor husband having to eat blackened hockey pucks every night for dinner and look at her, smile, and go, "Oh, that's good, dear." Just like any relationship, it takes time for it to season and to get better over time. It's the same with the cast iron. Anyway, that's just just a little thing I want to talk about with the cast iron, and I'll equate it to some cars also. There's a lot of us out here my age that remember the old cars with carburetors, and you couldn't go out on a cold morning, even on a semi-warm morning or day. Hop in the car and go down the road. The real old ones, they had a manual choke. You had to pull the choke out, start the car up, hope you didn't flood it. There was a little procedure, a little work, and you had to give it a few minutes, 5-10 minutes for it to warm up. Cast iron, before you cook on it, you gotta give it 5 minutes to warm up, to get heat soaked. These are things we were used to growing up. It was an everyday occurrence. Now you go out to your car, you crank it up, go on down the road. Never think anything about it. There's no points to adjust or clean out. Spark plugs, oh my God, spark plugs. You can go 10 years now without changing your spark plugs. With the old carburetors, we used to do it twice a year. Oil changes, yeah, now they're talking you can go 50,000 miles before you change your oil. We used to do it every 3,000. You know, these are things that we were used to growing up. That was just a way of life. Same with cooking. Those of you who remember the old gas ranges, most of the time the pilot light went out on the damn thing. So you'd sit there, you'd turn it on and light the burner. Don't have to do that today. Everything's electric, and now glass top, inductive. Everything's right there, instant. I think that ain't a bad thing. It's just it's the way people are used to things now. Instant. It works right when you want it to work. There's no wait time. In the kitchen cooking, always grew up, that's where we had most of our conversations. It's not during dinner. It was during the preparation of dinner, because you had to wait for this, you had to wait for that, you had to take your time, cut things up. You didn't pull it out of a package or open a can unless it was an ingredient you were adding to something. You didn't throw it in the microwave for 2 minutes and then sit down and eat. It took time, and it took people. And as a kid, you'd sit there and you would help. I thought that was a lot of fun. And in the meantime, you didn't even realize you were learning something. You were learning how to feed yourself. You were learning how to do things without being dependent on modern technology. I'm not picking on anyone, but seriously, half these kids, if a microwave went out, power went out, they'd starve to death. As soon as they ate all the dry goods, they'd starve to death because they wouldn't even be able to cook an egg. I find that a little bit disturbing myself, but I'm not picking on this, just the way things have evolved. And that's part of some of these videos that I make. I'm not a smart man. I'm not a craftsman. I'm not an expert on anything. But I do want to be able to show some of the younger generation, especially my grandkids, that you don't need all this modern technology to do everything, and don't become dependent on it. Don't become dependent on technology or other people. Be independent. Be yourself. Be able to take care of yourself. Be able to do the basics. Be able to survive on your own. Don't depend on anyone. And as you've seen, you know, a lot of the stuff I do, I'm not 100% sure of what I'm doing. And I might be doing it wrong in some people's view. But always remember, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's more than one way to season and use these cast iron pans. I'm just showing you what works for me. I'm showing you the basics, giving you a place to start. You figure out your own procedures. Same with woodworking and everything else. Well, again, I'm not an artist. So a lot of things I do and I make, they're not the best looking, but they are usable. They do what they're supposed to do. And that's what I'm trying to say. Make sure, when I say you should be independent, be sure you can take care of yourself when there's nobody else around to take care of you. Make sure you can get your basic needs without technology. Learn how to start a fire. Learn how to cook over a fire. Learn what wild vegetables, fruits, plants, and everything are out there that you can eat and sustain yourself in an emergency. Water. Learn how to get water from the ground, from trees, from plants. Learn how to filter water. You know, these are basic survival things that actually my folks knew because they did it every day. They were born in the early 1900s. They didn't have running tap water. This is what my grandparents, that was just daily living for them. But anyway, that's it. That's just a little ramble. Just a little filler until we get to the drawing next Saturday, April 2nd. In the meantime, if you haven't, subscribe, hit that like button, share, and if you want that new large cast iron pan, put down somewhere in the comments, I want that pan. Other than that, you all have yourselves a good day. Have a good week. Be safe. Take care. We'll catch you next time.